Hi, I'm Jamie Brazil, and you're listening to the Happy Market Research Podcast. My guest today is Roger Verhulst, Director of Market Research at LinkedIn. Launched in 2003, LinkedIn is the dominant social networking platform for today's professionals, with over 500 million members in 200 countries. Prior to joining LinkedIn, Roger was a restaurant manager in the Netherlands and has worked at both Research International and Microsoft. Roger, thank you very much for joining us today.
Oh, yeah. Glad to be part of this.
Are you using new vendors at any level of regularity, or you guys pretty much found who you like to work with? And then if you are, what sort of characteristics or traits are you looking for outside help?
Yeah, so I think it's also that probably changed a lot in the last few years. I mean, obviously it's very easy in today's day and age to fire off a survey. The technology is there to do things so it's very accessible for anyone to do a survey. You don't need to be a programmer. You don't need to be super technical. And there's obviously some risk with it, which I can elaborate on. But we have pulled in some of the most foundational pieces are in-house. I think where we typically tend to go, outside of the LinkedIn platform is if we want to get sort of a blind, unbiased perspective on a particular topic, and it tends to be around the brand. Right, so you want to make sure that as you compare yourself to Facebook or Google, you want to survey them in an anonymous fashion so people not biased in either way, and you have 80% of sample of sort of customers and non-customers. So that's like one example. I think the other example of where we use outside vendors is if there's a sort of specialized skill or technique. If a particular vendor is known for a particular way of analyzing data, whether it's text analytics or whether it's some modeling exercise, then we would go outside. And then the last category is more around, there's certain studies that we don't do frequently enough, that we have built enough sort of in-house expertise around it. So, for example, value prop research or big segmentation, we don't do those all the time. So we would hire someone to sort of consult on that or even help build the analysis. But I'd say it's probably 60% in-house, 40% outsourced in terms of the work we do, or the volume of work we do. And I suspect that will be a trend that we'll continue to see as companies are, going more and more digital.
You're hitting on a really important point for me, and I think the industry in general, and that is when you look at the income or the revenue that's been in market research over the last 10, 15 years, it's been pretty flat. And that's interesting because the volume of data that brands have today is tremendously higher than it was. And market research really hasn't been capitalizing on that. My thesis is exactly in line with what you're saying, and that is technology is doing a good job of making everyone's life easier and really making research accessible. SurveyMonkey, for example, anybody can literally, my mom can do a survey. And so I'm not saying I would want her to do a survey for me, but sorry, Mom, but the broader point is we have completely been disrupted on that front. And when you think about where the value is for a brand, I think the point that you made is important. That is, it's got to be differentiated from what has been, more in the preview of logistics, I guess, of market research. Right, just getting a lot of people to facilitate that conversation as opposed to adding value and understanding the why of the answers.
Yeah, and I think there's a huge opportunity for education. I mean, there's a great risk in being so easily accessible to so many people in the organization because we see we oftentimes find ourselves having to educate other groups within the company or attempting to do a survey, and I suspect that that's happening across the board. And so I think there is an opportunity for the industry to pivot a little bit more towards more of a consulting type function, or, there's a lot of data being generated, but, as a research company, you cannot compete anymore on the fact that you have access to a particular panel or list or just pure descriptive reporting. And so you need to up-level the skill sets to sort of add that new value in ways, whether it's more advanced modeling or a particular approach or framework of how you tackle a particular business challenge. But yeah, it's I think it's interesting that I'm not surprised that obviously the revenue, the total market has been stable over the years. But I think there's a lot of unmet needs there that if we really think hard about like what are the new ways in which we can offer services, I think the research industry could adapt itself and actually become a growing industry again.
My guest today has been Roger Verhulst, Director of Market Research at LinkedIn. Roger, thank you very much.
You're welcome.